what?
That's a really great question, because it seems like up until somewhere in our 30s, 40s, it's A plus B equals C. I do good work in school, I get an A. I'm in control, right? And then we start entering into relationships and romance. And all of a sudden, we can't control the other person and we can't control the outcomes. We get into work situations where we don't have total control. And to our best efforts, things don't work out the way we want them to. So if we are totally hooked on getting things to happen our way, we are in for a world of worry and unhappiness. So
if we don't curb it.
Pardon?
If we don't curb it, so
yeah.
in some kind of way.
Yeah. So how do we sort of get over needing to control everything? That is the key. And there's a lot of that in the book. Part of it, I do discuss spiritual principles in the book. And I also use cognitive behavioral therapy ideas, and also some energy things like the tapping. All of these can help change a negative thought that I have to have it this way or else I won't be happy. Like if my child doesn't stop drinking, I cannot be happy. Well, there are whole programs that help you be fairly sane and functional even while a loved one is dysfunctioning.
That's true. That's true.
Because you cannot control that. So I think so many of the frustrations in life is when we run into things we can't control that we wish we could. And then we're back to, what can we control? My attitude. How do I get myself settled into my own strength or spiritual strength that is going to help me get calm enough so I can access some wisdom and not force solutions, to be patient, to listen.
Right. Yeah, like kind of, what is the saying, trying to put a round peg into a square or something like that?
Yeah.
That reminds me of that. Yeah. And so, and we're going to talk, well, let's talk about now, because there are some things that you can do, some ways that you can control that thinking or redirect that pattern of thought to, curb that behavior of being, number one, being so disappointed when you don't get your way and when you really don't have a control over a situation. So, what are some of those techniques to do that?
What are some of the best ways to do that?
Yeah, what are some of the best ways to do that?
Yeah. Well, I have 50 of them in my book, but
well, let's talk about a few of them.
You might ask that. If, the most obvious one is meditation. The research on meditation in terms of lowering stress and also improving all of the physical health things and emotional health is just rock solid. And there are wonderful little tools online that can help you learn how. It doesn't mean just sitting silently. You can use guided meditations. And quite often early on when I first realized I had such a bad self-image, I actually used like almost self-hypnosis meditation that said, I'm likable, I'm confident. So those things, even though they might seem hokey like affirmations, when we say to ourselves something negative, it's more likely to draw the negativity into our lives. When we say to ourselves positive things like, I'm going to love this interview with Charita, we're going to have a great time, it's going to be of service to people, that is a much more forceful and dissolving of the worry kind of thought than, oh my God, I don't know if it, and so on.
Yeah, I can totally relate to that. On a couple of levels, a lot of people that I interview, it just reminds me of this self-talk that you have. One of the first books that I was a co-author on, I Am Woman, my chapter was about my battle with depression. Okay, and I always say that for me, depression was, my cause of depression was all the terrible things I told myself about myself. And then one day I was sitting and I was telling myself all those terrible things, and all of a sudden I'm asking myself, where did you get this stuff from? Who told you that? And
Yeah.
it was in that very instant the depression was gone.
Amazing.
It was
Yes.
just it was just gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I can relate to that. You know, those whispered lies and you know, positive self talk. I don't know about affirmations because you know I've been doing some experiments with affirmations. Not necessarily my own, but some have gotten offline, and a lot of them, you know, really they really didn't fit me. So we have to come up with our own affirmations.
Absolutely. Yep. I agree. I didn't know that I could write a book like this. You know, after 30 some years, my husband said, you know, why don't you, instead of writing a memoir, because I had retired and I like to write, he said, why don't you write down all the things that I hear you tell the women that you work with? And I thought, oh my gosh, a self-help book, you know. Well, then, of course, the whispered lies came in. What do you mean? Who do you think you are? Blah, blah, blah. So I did create vision boards with a completed book, and I created a little saying, you know, I create a wonderful book in a wonderful way. I offer wonderful service for wonderful pay.
And you
And
do.
yeah, and I had that, you know, the vision board in front of my desk every time I went to write. And it took 6 years before I had the manuscript that was ready to go.